What's happening, guys? Axel, Damian, in other words, Axel. Now listen, in this video, I'm going to give you the best bulking macros to help you build muscle. So before you go ahead and make those toaster strudels, you need to stop what you're doing and watch this video, okay? Because I'm going to make it nice and simple for you so that you can focus more on your training and not have to worry so much about your diet. That way you can make the most amount of gains and have the most fun doing it. All right, so starting off with macros, okay, we're gonna cover protein intake, fat intake, and carb intake when you're bulking. And this is kind of as a follow-on from my last video that I made, my current bulking program, how to bulk while staying lean. So it's an addition to that. So go ahead and watch that video after you watch this. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop right to it. Starting off with protein, our main one we want to cover, okay, that's the most important one. So with protein, you want to make sure that in your diet, you're at least eating 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now remember, this is the most important part here, and you've probably heard before people say, always make sure you have 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now excuse me, wipe this drool off my mouth, because these always come up in each video, but you've probably heard always 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, you actually don't need to eat that much on a bulk, and for some of you, it probably helps eating less. That way you don't feel as full, because as we know, protein is a lot more filling. So we can actually eat as low as 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight, because since we're bulking, we're eating an excess of calories. We don't have to worry about our body using our muscles, breaking down muscle, because we're not in a caloric deficit, okay? We have more energy. We don't have to worry about that. So, given that, go ahead and drop down to 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight. That's probably gonna be a lot easier for most of you to hit. So, what I want you to guys do is, if you're following along using an app like MyFitnessPal and programming your macros right now, go ahead and pull that out and go ahead and set your minimum protein intake, which is gonna be your body weight times 0.7 grams. So go ahead and change that on MyFitnessPal, because by the way, guys, that's one of the best things I recommend on a bulk. Start tracking your macros. Use an app like MyFitnessPal, okay? All right, next. Now that we set our protein minimum to 0.7 at least, right? We're setting ourselves up nicely for this bulk. And because we're eating not as much protein, well, guess what? That means more of our favorite stuff, more of our favorite fats, and more of our favorite carbs. So let's go ahead and talk about fat. Now, on the cut, you probably were eating way less fat than you normally do, okay, because you're trying to eat more carbs, okay? The carbs are gonna be your primary energy source for most of you, as long as you're not doing that keto diet, which that's not what we're gonna talk about in this video. We're talking about a generalized diet that'll fit for most of you, okay? So since you're not in the deficit, we can actually increase the amount of fat we have, because we're not gonna be we're not going to be trying to get the most amount of carbs as possible, because we're no longer in a caloric restriction phase. So given that, set your fat intake anywhere between 20 to 30% of your calories. And you know what? You can even take it as high as 40%. That's okay too if you like having more fat in your diet. So I'm going to make it easy for you guys. Why not set it somewhere in the middle ground? How about set your fats at 25 or 30%. Set it there on your app like MyFitnessPal, and go ahead and just keep it there, but give yourself that range. Note where your top end of the range is, okay? So however many calories you decide to eat, whether that be, let's say, 2,500 calories, go ahead and figure out what 35% or 40% of your calories would be as your fat intake, and know that top end limit in your head, know the bottom limit, and just make sure you eat somewhere in that range, because when you're bulking, it's not as important to keep a specific target for fats. And that goes the same thing along with carbs. Now, when you're bulking, fats and carbs are gonna be playing a game with each other, okay? They're constantly gonna be fluctuating depending on what you decide to eat that day. And that's the greatest part of bulking, is that you don't have these specific targets anymore. So given that, go ahead and, like I said before, set that fat intake, just put it as 25%. Let that be your minimum, okay? And then just make sure you hit at least that minimum, but don't be afraid to let that range up to the top end of the range. So figure out what 40% of your calories would be. Let that be the top end of the range. And depending on how that fluctuates, go ahead and fill the rest of your calories with carbohydrates, okay? So that's gonna take up the remainder of your calories. So what do I mean by that? So after you hit your protein intake, so your minimum is gonna be 0.7 grams of protein, then after you hit at least your fat minimum intake, so at least 25% of your total calories, once you hit those two, you don't really have to worry about where your carbs end up, because you hit the most important part of your protein intake, you hit your fat minimum, and you want to make sure you eat enough carbs or fats or proteins to just get the remainder of your total caloric intake. So that's the most important part, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and put the notes in the description below, so go ahead, Axel, go ahead and make that toaster strudel, finish that up. You can eat it as long as you can fit it into your daily macros. You don't have to worry about being so restrictive, because guys, I'm telling you what, when you're bulking, it's time to be a little bit more loose, enjoy life a little bit. Don't be so strict on your macros, on your calories. You can eat these other foods as long as you hit those recommendations I just gave you earlier on. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this nice little short video. Let me know what you guys enjoy to eat on a bulk. You guys already know what I enjoy to eat. But anyways, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit that like button. And thank you all for watching. And you know, I'll see you all in the next one.
I'm out of my day to focus on myself, but today everything is going down my way. I got my